Okay, so hello, welcome. A, a couple of, I think was it weeks or months ago a month ago at this point, I kind of became aware of something called Ida Hobbit Day for the first time. And I have heard of Wear It Purple, that sort of stuff. But I'd never heard of Ida Hobbit Day before. Um, and I became aware of parents were protesting about it, and I kind of looked into it a bit. And I'm here with Tess. Tess and I wanted to kind of have a bit of a conversation about Ida Hobbit Day and some of the things that have led up to things like Ida Hobbit Day, because that's kind of our wheelhouse, areas that we're very interested in and are reasonably well researched in. So thank you for joining me, Tess.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to add anything?
No, I think I think the Ida Hobbit for some reason this year, maybe because there was yes, some parents in South Australia this year actually did a protest.
Yeah.
So depending on which news station you look at, it was anywhere between 30 and 50, I think is the most amount that I've read as far as numbers. They actually held a protest because they were
Outside the
promoting
school.
outside the school, yep, because they were actually promoting this for the main organisers child's class, and it was a kindergarten class. So kindergarten is, 4 and 5 year olds. So he objected to this being taught to kindergarten children, which frankly
Yeah,
I
fair
agree.
enough. Yeah, like what what is going on? So
There's there's no need.
Ida Hobbit.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to give you people the background, Ida Hobbit Day is observed every year on May the 17th. It marks the
Sh
anniversary from 1990 when the World Health Organization removed homosexuality from its list of mental disorders, and apparently that's a major milestone. World Health Organization doing that is a major milestone of LGBT blah 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 rights. Um, it stands for raising awareness of discrimination and violence against LGBT blah blah blah. It's promoting equality, dignity, and human rights worldwide. Um, it happens in 130 different countries apparently, and it stands for, what does it stand for? International
International.
Day against homophobia, biphobia, like they've added intersex conditions into that, and transphobia. Um, and they're doing it, as you said, from kindergarten to year 12, which is absurd that they are
Yeah.
pushing this.
Yeah.
I found a clip earlier from BTN, which is Behind the News, which is meant to be, an ABC, I think it's an ABC program aimed at uh, encouraging kids to be interested in the news. I remember watching
Yeah.
Behind the News when I was in year 5 and 6. So it's very definitely focused on uh, kind of primary school level, year 4, year 5, year 6 type kids, that age group, to kind of start introducing them into the news, and that the news impacts them and is important, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I found this clip about basically promoting Ida Hobbit Day on BTN. So I just thought that it might be an idea to watch that, a couple of minutes of that, to give people a flavor of.
Hi, I'm Misha. I use she, they pronouns, and I am a very proud lesbian. I'm Alex. I use a but he, him pronouns, and I'm Ara Ace and agender. My name is Carney. My pronouns are she, her. Ruby, I go by any pronouns just because I don't really care. And I think I'm Arrowways. I don't really do the labeling thing, I just kind of describe it. I'm Phoebe. I use she, her, and I'm Misha's proud ally bestie.
Some of the members of Henley High's Prism Club.
The club for queer kids and allies where they have like a safe space to just like be themselves, really. and not be judged and everything, really. You don't actually have to worry about people coming up to you and just yelling stupid things or jumping at you and stuff. So everyone's welcome here. We always just chill, have some music on in the background, interact with other people.
It's like that Spider-Man.
When I first came here, I didn't come to prison club because I was terrified that everyone was going to make fun of me. And well, I didn't really know much about myself back then either. And then eventually I saw some of the year 12s running Wear It Purple Day, and they were like so proud of it. And they were wearing purple, and I had like cool earrings and everything. And then I think I went to prison club the next week because I was just like, okay, I may as well go. I don't think I'm going to get made fun of. And I brought a few people with me because I was terrified. And I came in and it was literally the best thing ever. And I think I've come back every Monday since.
The club also organises school events to raise awareness and show support for other LGBTQIA plus students.
Seeing other people come, like being like so thankful that we've done it and so appreciative makes us feel so good. Doing more of this and then more people know about it, and then it's going to get less and less homophobic in schools, because you can't really be homophobic towards it if you kind of understand it and why it's important.
Recently, they've been putting together pride ribbons for IDAHOBIT.
IDAHOBIT is the International Day Against LGBTQ plus discrimination. So the name IDAHOBIT is actually an acronym which includes homophobia, biphobia, interphobia, and transphobia, so discrimination against particular identities, and it's observed all around the world.
This is Adrian. He is from Minus 18, an organisation whose aim is to uplift LGBTQIA plus youth. He says IDAHOBIT is a chance for people to connect with that community by raising awareness to the discrimination they face. IDAHOBIT also marks when, in 1990, homosexuality was removed from the World Health Organization classification of diseases.
Which is a significant moment in history for the queer community, and it really signals to the world that a person's sexual or gender identity isn't a disease or something to be fixed.
I find anything with minus 18 so problematic. I mean, minus 18 was started by a convicted pedophile, Colin Billings, in Victoria. You know, up until probably when people started becoming more aware of it, like around the same-sex marriage debate, minus 18 used to include things like how to hide porn use from your parents, so information on different browsers and everything for under 18s. That's why it's called minus 18. How to hide porn use, you know, how to deal with STDs without parents finding out. Sorry, they're not STDs anymore, they're STIs, because they're not diseases, they're infections. You know, because everything, you know, some cream or a tablet will get rid of an infection, but not a disease. And, you know, they don't talk about, you know, antibiotic resistant, you know, different revolting bugs like gonorrhea and syphilis, but yeah, they're infections now to sort of downplay it. So yeah.
So there are a couple of things. How old would you? I can't judge how young people. They look like they're 13 or 14 to me. How old would you say those
between
kids?
13 and 15?
Yeah.
But those sort of clubs, those we call them GSA clubs, they're happening. I mean, they've called it Prism. Sorry, not prison. I mean, they're happening in schools right across Australia, lots and lots. You know, I know for a fact, you know, there's in a particular school in a low socioeconomic area that I know, their weekly GSA clubs, they bring in a pile of pizzas, they bring in cool drink, they bring in, you know, ice creams and stuff. And so the kids that normally wouldn't get those sort of things, you know, go flooding into there. Let's just go and, you know, get the free pizzas and the free, you know, stuff, because it's not something that's usually available to them. And they're all then, you know, groomed to become you know, non-questioning allies and things like that. And there's a lot of stuff that happens within these clubs and stuff, you know, kids being assaulted that don't like to report on, you know, their fellow trans person or whatever if they've been assaulted by them, because, you know, that would make them a bad ally and things like that. So
And there's all of this oppressed stuff. These are the most marginalized, most depressed people on the planet. You know, you don't want to kick them while they're down, kind of, you know, like there's a lot of social pressure. The 14-year-old who was saying, I'm a proud lesbian, you're not really, how is a 14-year-old sexual in any way or concerned with sexuality in any way?
These days, yes, it's getting worse as all of this stuff is becoming so infiltrated into schools. Recently been speaking to another mum whose 12-year-old's been receiving dick pics on her mobile device from boys in her school at 12 years old.
And we're not talking like the occasional, we're talking
no, we're talking
dozens a day.
Dozens, yeah. So, our kids are a lot more sexual now than, like our age group would have been, because it's literally, they're just drowning in it, and of course porn and, internet and things like that as well, making it worse. So,
Yeah. So I kind of noticed the girl who outs herself as a lesbian,
Yeah.
she's talking about basically one narrative of her story is I saw the year 12s who
Yes.
as a young kid that you think the year 12s are just the coolest.
Yep.
They are the coolest people in the school.
Yes.
They're doing the wear it purple thing. They make
Yep.
it look even cooler, which is the pizza and soft drink stuff.
And cool earrings with that girl.
Cool earrings. And I
Yeah.
wanted to join that club.
Yeah.
So I've thought about it and thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. And you can kind of see how they would do the whole objectively. Well, I at 14, 15 years old, as a girl, I understand other girls more than I understand boys who are a complete mystery because they're socially quite different.
Yeah.
And they have different social
Yeah.
rules and things like big act behaviors.
Yes.
So they have so girls at that age don't really understand boys as a group. So of course they're going to be more identified with girls, and they can kind of do this whole thing where it's like, that girl is objectively good looking, and then they intellectualize the whole thing, and they could easily start going, well, I find her attractive because she is. They can internalize a whole heap of stuff very easily.
Yes.
And then start running around saying that they're a lesbian when they haven't kissed a boy or a girl yet. They have no idea.
Yes.
But it's just the coolest thing on the planet, and
Yeah.
they have talked themselves into it. They've groomed
Yeah.
themselves in a number of ways because it's being presented as the hottest, coolest thing on the campus.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got to have a label these days. It's just, the labels are the whole point sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the IDAHOBIT is happening, lots of places in schools. I've found some good pictures of different activities that like one Australian school did, including drag bingo show, guest speakers, stilettos throwing, entertainment, rainbow ally wall, photo booths and food vans.
So it's basically like a mini school fete.
Looks like, yes.
So do you want to show pictures of that if you got them?
Yeah. These are just random ones that came up on sort of my social media feed. So here's one. School will be recognising IDAHOBIT Day, where everyone feels, safe, respected and proud to be themselves. They've got pancakes at the breakfast club, lunchtime activities, all that sort of thing, We've got...
And hold on one sec. If you just go back a bit, it says it's organised by the school's diversity club.
Yes.
Just here. So all of these, what traditionally would have been gay straight alliance, which is an American term, I think, has turned into its diversity club at what looks like Cranbourne East.
Yeah.
The school at behind the news, it was the Prism Club, because presumably you're learning to see the world through a different prism.
Yeah. It's not just public schools and stuff either. I mean, this is another school a couple of years ago, a quite elite school in Western Australia, that had the IDAHOBIT Day. The original post with this did mention that they had -18 come down, but there was a lot of sort of pushback from parents and stuff, and so they removed that part on the post. WA Labor supporting IDAHOBIT Day. This is how captured even Labor is. This agenda is a Labor agenda, Labor and Greens agenda. Solidarity, all of this sort of stuff against discrimination. We've seen hate and division in the community grow. I mean, when they're talking hate and division, I mean, they're talking about women's rights to private spaces, like we've seen since the giggle versus tickle court ruling and stuff, Labor's come out. I mean, now there's actually Pink News and a few of the other ones are actually promoting a petition now, not in our name, for women to sign to say that they don't mind trans people in their private spaces. Like this is just ridiculous. But yeah, there's a lot of things. Here's another one about the activities that they're going to be doing. Yeah, so it must have been a fate situation. Food trucks, yeah, drag bingo show, guest speakers, stiletto throwing, all of this sort of stuff. So yeah,
hold on. So this is
yep,
Join Us on Sunday. So May the
yeah,
17th on this year
yeah,
happened to fall on a Sunday.
yeah,
So I wonder whether whether there was already a school fete
possibly,
pre-existing
yeah,
and they just happened to add it onto this, or whether they've
yep,
done a whole school fete day based around
yeah,
it being a Sunday IDAHOBIT day.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, but there was quite a few. I mean, that's just some of the ones that I've saved, sort of thing. So yeah.
So, what would you say to? We've both had people say this to us before. Oh, it's just stiletto throwing. They're not teaching kids about sexuality. The statistical reality is that some of these kids will grow up to identify as LGB or LGBT. They're just doing this for tolerance and equality, or
Yeah.
just being a prude. What's the deal?
Look,
They're
I,
not
I think,
sexual. I don't see any sexualizing of kids here.
well, I mean, the thing is, there's a lot of grooming. We know that it's coming in from different programs like respectful relationships and things. We know,
Roz Ward.
yeah, Roz Ward and things. We know that the purpose of this is to, to encourage transitioning and stuff. We know that that they promote this heavily. We know that they've got like the genderbread person, the gender unicorn sort of thing.
Yeah,
We've got, I mean, another post today that I found for another organization, talking about, babies being sexual beings from birth.
yeah.
Um,
Well, that's in the
and all the,
building. I was doing that to
yeah,
segue into.
yeah, yeah.
Is there a video of Roz Ward saying what is the thing about her saying that she's doing the safe schools
Uh,
to get to the kids about? Do you remember what that was about?
um, yeah, she's talking, hang on, let's see if we can find it.
I've got
I don't strictly do research. I'm part of a research team, but a lot of what I do is about putting research into practice. So I work in the youth programs area of Gay and Lesbian Health Victoria, which is about improving the health and wellbeing outcomes for young people who are same-sex attracted or gender questioning. And there's a couple of key programs. There's Safe Schools Coalition Victoria, Rainbow Network Victoria, and now we have a WebWise cyber safety program for young people. So I guess the hypothesis is around ways to make, reduce homophobia and make young people's lives better and happier and all of that stuff. So with Safe Schools Coalition, one of the things that we know from the research is that a lot of homophobia takes place in schools. So really the key outcome is to reduce the levels of homophobia in schools. And a lot of the work we do is quite practical with school staff, students in schools, to provide resources that are based on the research that we have here, and training and professional development for school staff that I do, that's based on the findings we've got from writing themselves in research that's taken place here at Archers. Well, we seem to be already having an impact in the last couple of days. There's been articles in MX, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the gay and lesbian community, I suppose, around the impact that Safe Schools Coalition is having on the community. So far, we've got 51 schools that have become part of the Safe Schools Coalition. We've done training with around 2,500 school staff so far. So I think the evaluation for that, which is kind of part of our research as well, has shown that it is having an impact, that people value the work that we're doing. And I think value the fact that we're coming from this research perspective, that we're about putting research into practice, and that being a part of the Trove really helps us to achieve what we want to achieve.
That's not quite the video I was hoping for. I'll see if I can find the clip where she does say something really contentious about we're coming for your kids. because
I,
otherwise
I,
I'm going to have to scrub through 35-minute videos.
yeah, hang
But
on.
even in that video, she's saying it's research based, but then she's saying they're working off the hypothesis that this will happen.
Yes. Yeah.
And the other thing is that most of the research that they're doing,
Yeah.
when you dig into it, are self-report surveys. So
Yeah.
they're going up to gay and like kids who identify prematurely
Yeah.
as gay and lesbian,
Yeah.
asking them how safe they feel, and then they're extrapolating from there.
I know I just Googled because while you were playing that, and the Google AI is saying she never made that "We are coming from your kids," which I thought she did too. But it says it became widely known after it was chanted by activists during the 2023 New York City Pride Drag March, a controversial action that LGBTQ organizations and activists defended or heavily criticized.
Well, I mean, the thing is that Roz Ward when did safe schools come into play?
About 2015, it was actually
And
introduced.
when did gay marriage happen? When was that the
About
plebiscite?
2018,
Okay, so
around about.
I
Yeah,
remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, one of the final stumbling blocks against gay marriage was the wider population
yeah,
believed that there was this, you're doing this, you're being gay, you want awareness of LGB type stuff because you're coming for our kids. You want to indoctrinate our kids into
yeah,
this.
yeah,
And there was this really conservative, and I scoffed at this at the time as well,
yeah,
like just like everybody. You're coming for our kids. You're going to indoctrinate our kids. You're trying to, um, what's the I word? Like get the kids in other people's children involved.
yes, yeah,
And there was this big, don't be ridiculous. We're gay. We're not interested in your kids. We don't
yeah,
care about your kids. We're not interested in breeding couples. Like, that's
yeah,
ridiculous. Keep your family out of my Mardi Gras type stuff.
yeah,
Um, and then it was this big thing that went on for at least a decade. It was a debate that conservatives, you're trying to include children into this, you're
yeah,
trying to indoctrinate children into into all of these, lifestyles. And the report back was, no, we're not. We don't give a shit about your kids. We don't care about your kids. We don't want anything to do with your kids, breeder type stuff. And then at the same time that was happening back and forth in the general community, you have people like Roz Ward
yeah,
researching and deliberately going into schools. And even in that clip there, that where she doesn't say anything, on the face of it, too controversial,
yeah,
she is assuming that she has a right to other people's children, that other people's children are automatically going to identify as gay
yeah,
in the future, and that's somehow her business.
yeah,
The sacrosanct that is the nuclear family is hers to peddle on. Like, when you
yeah,
break it down, at this point there are a whole heap of norms that have been broken that we don't really think about. We don't think that they're that controversial at this point, and
yeah,
it's very easy. And you see a lot of people going, like, you're just being a prude, shut up. But when
yeah,
you take it back to the beginning, at the point that they're initiating all of these programs, the religious conservatives are saying, we don't want gay marriage because this is going to impact the family.
yeah,
And the gay community at large is saying, we don't care about your family. We just want to coexist with your family. And I'm assuming the majority of people who weren't activists that just happened to be in the gay and lesbian community actually believed that and weren't actively interested. But at the same time, there's a cohort of
yeah,
early queer Marxist activists
yeah,
that are deliberately trying to get into schools to indoctrinate children into, so the conservatives were right in a way, and she just demonstrates that in that video by saying that.
yeah,
I've heard her say it. I have a
yeah,
video of her saying it,
yeah. I just don't know which one it is.
that she is wanting to indoctrinate people's children
Yeah,
or something
yeah,
like
she
that.
admits it.
Yeah, she does. I've seen it, but the videos that I've saved are like 35 minutes long, so I'll have to come
Yeah,
back to that. Hey, this is Editing Kev. I found the clip with Roz Ward that I was referring to earlier. Um, it's not a "we're out to get your children" video comment explicitly, but it's a bit of a perler. So I'll let you watch it and then I'll comment a little bit afterwards.
We talk about visibility, and it's one of the challenges, I think, of working, and we work deliberately, specifically around sexual diversity and gender diversity. Not all forms of diversity. We're talking about sexual diversity and gender diversity. And both of those things are not necessarily visible. You can't look around the room and be like, oh, you're sexually diverse, you're gender diverse, whatever. It's not the same as saying, oh, there's a lot of people with different cultural backgrounds. I can see them in here. Not all cultural diversity is visible, but there are those triggers to make you think, are we doing stuff to make those students from different cultural backgrounds feel included? There's not the same triggers around sexual diversity. People can be invisible and there are schools where they say, still, we don't necessarily work with them, but we hear the stories of, but we don't really have any gay students in our school. Because they're not necessarily visible, right? So we've got to think about really explicit physical cues that are very clearly about gender and sexual diversity. So we think very specific posters work really well. Very specific messages from school leadership. Very specific things written in the school newsletter about Safe Schools Coalition, about supporting gender and sexual diversity. Not about celebrating diversity, not about stopping bullying, about gender and sexual diversity, about same-sex attracted, about being transgender, about being lesbian, gay, bisexual, say the words, transgender, intersex, not just being nice to everyone, everyone's great.
I think that's come out of like in the past schools, like schools
Parents, positive parents, have driven that change in schools. And out of 132 schools, we have had one complaint from a parent about being part of Safe Schools Coalition. One complaint. And that's not what the schools thought was going to happen. All of the school leadership, a lot of school leadership said, well, what do we do when a parent complains? We give them some advice, and then we're like, did anyone complain? It's like, no, it's great actually. Somebody called us and said, congratulations for joining. And it's way more likely to be that we time than people complaining. If and when, and sometimes in that case when the parent did complain, we have complaints sometimes directly from parents who are not interested in anything. When people do complain, and school leadership can very calmly and graciously say, you know what we're doing anyway, come to us. Basically, in a nice way. What can you do? This is a program that's about supporting safe and inclusive schools. We're going to celebrate IDAHOBIT Day, and we're going to do it with our junior campus. And so, it's unfortunate that you don't agree with that. We're going to do it again next year. If you really strongly disagree and you want to take your kid out of school that day, that's their loss.
It's important because it does come up a lot. People say, what about the parents a lot? Schools give their parents have a lot of power over schools. Parents don't have the power to shut this down. There's an insignificant minority that have an issue with it. None of them feel there to say anything. One person does. The principal knows how to deal with that person. They know what the message is. They know why they're doing this work, why it's so important. That's part of the school culture. That's part of the school community. You're either part of the today. And you can't say that you have the school wants to coach that way.
Okay, so you can clearly hear that, they don't deliberately say or explicitly say we're out to get your kids or to indoctrinate your kids, but pretty much they do. It's not quite as explicit as I remembered, but it's still horrifically bad. They're saying basically the whole Safe Schools program was delivered as a generalized anti-bullying, let's be nice to everyone campaign, and they are saying specifically in that clip, no, that's not what we designed. We designed something specifically for children around their sexuality. And then they go on to say that basically parents don't have the power to do anything about it because it's just that one whinger that calls up and everybody else is too lethargic to care, pardon me, or too lethargic to get involved. And they actually mention, even though the closed captions don't catch the word, they do talk about IDAHOBIT Day as the day that one parent complained about. And, that they're so, high-handed about it. If you want to keep your kid out of school, then that's their loss. It is the level of disdain that they have for the parent-child relationship to say things like that publicly is just disgusting. But there's also the Building Respectable Relationships document that we both have.
Yes. Yeah. Let me get that up. I can get that up. Hang on. So yeah, Kevin and I went through a lot of the Respectful Relationships program, and there's
which is the curriculum based in Victoria.
Yeah, well, based everywhere actually. So when safe schools was shut down because of the Loudon review that was done in about 2016, it was a parliamentary review where they recommended that a really huge chunk of the safe schools program be removed because it was quite revolting. It was broken up into, like, at the moment, I've got a list of about 30 different programs that have basically taken on what Safe Schools was teaching and just renamed it. So one of those is Respectful Relationships, which is Resilience, Rights and Respectful Relationships. It's the RRRR. So from there, we found a lot of documentation. There's one that's from the Building Respectful Relationships, so how to implement the respectful relationships into schools. So on page 8, we bumped into this. Can you see that clearly?
Yeah, perfect. Don't move it anymore.
Okay. We found this lovely little chart. So an effective approach for how for preventing gender-based violence, because safe schools and these sort of programs are promoted as an anti-bullying program. Excuse me. So relevant, inclusive, and culturally sensitive practice, evaluating the impact of the strategies on a whole school community. So the model is based on figure 1 is based on the recommendations of the Respectful Relationships Education, Violence Prevention and Respectful Relationships Education in Victorian Secondary Schools report. It was trialled in only four secondary schools during 2010, with an emphasis on schools addressing gender-based violence on the context of local needs and circumstances. So that was on page 8. It goes on to sort of talk about applying the approach to particular schools. Schools will be at a range of entry points. I'll skip all this, but we'll just go to the highlighted area because
the whole school thing is basically it is aimed and set up so that they can insert it everywhere they want to,
everywhere
they need to, maths, science, physical education.
So they encourage there's implicit teaching and explicit teaching. So implicit is like the actual wellness program lessons. So the actual sit down and this is all we learn. But this particular guide talks about how important it is to put it into everything. This page talks about allowing schools to engage in outside agencies. So we know from the school in South Australia who had Headspace come to the school and taught the kids, their 14 or 15-year-olds, about bestiality and incest and things like that. So they encourage outside sources to come in. But it also says that teaching respectful relationships is the responsibility of the whole school. Formal curriculum content is only one element. It allows teachers to send messaging according to their own beliefs incidentally. So, I mean, you might have, we know that there's lots of lovely teachers, but there's some also very activist teachers, and this allows them to insert their little flavour into all the lessons. That's how they start getting it into things like the maths subject. So instead of just being, Johnny and Jill went to the shop to buy this and this and this, they start doing the background picture for the problem solving, including, Johnny is trans and this one's this, and, together they go to the shop and, all of those. So it's just drip feeding these little messages all the time, the drip feeding. So they also include promoting social justice. So social justice is activism, basically.
Yeah. Well, it's a social justice is a worldview. There are religious and conservative families, or religious families that aren't necessarily conservative / and conservative families that don't have this worldview.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's being taught to their kids directly, whether they like it or not.
Yeah. So this one, how should this resource be used? It basically is encouraging integration into all subjects. It can be hidden within all subject areas. So regardless of the contents in which the resource will be used, the focus on violence against women and on sexuality is sensitive. This resource should only be used by experienced health educators or teachers. But then saying that, we know that it's coming through from everyone, hence the example in South Australia. It's designed around a very specific set of worldviews, lots of ideology, communism, socialism. They're concerned with power and social status.
Which means that they're basically every time they say power or oppress or oppressed, it is basically a buzzword for capitalism.
Yeah.
When you get deeper into it, what they mean is they are anti-capitalist through and through.
Yeah.
And the nuclear family, when you get into Sophie Lewis and Emmy O'Brien, they say specifically outright that the nuclear family is the cornerstone of Western civilization, the capitalist Christian Western civilization. And the more you think about that, the more you realize that it is true. Everything else is built on top of mother, father, children. That's the core of everything that we believe in. And that's the core of our democracies, basically. Our entire way of life revolves around that. And everything in these programs is designed specifically to attack that and to break it down and to teach kids that that's just one idea of how to build a successful civilization, and there are actually better ways to build civilizations with less oppression. Not that they've ever actually existed on a global scale before. But they keep, that it's like the postmodernism. There are multiple right answers, and it's like, that may well be true that there's more than one right answer, but like only one system has built this much, has pulled this many people out of poverty in such record-breaking times before. So
it also states, I think, quite problematically that their methods are the Victorian academics who wrote this, they say that their methods are the best practice. So how can they state best practice when it's been tested on 4 schools?
Yeah.
All the stuff to do with violence and stuff focuses on, violence towards females and things. So, I mean, I'm curious because I know a lot of it is like talks about toxic masculinity and things. And we know, different examples of, boys in school being told that, they've got to apologize for their toxic masculinity and things like that. How did the boys feel about, having this stuff drilled into them, as well as the girls? I mean, too, but, but it's quite significant. And then the concerning thing, I mean, our academic levels are dropping. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that, our NAPLAN scores the last few, half a dozen years look like they're okay, but it's because they've changed the goalposts. So changing the goalposts mean that our kids now look as if they're doing okay, but compared on a world standard, Australia's dropped quite considerably. Various, education academics and stuff, and, are talking about how busy the curriculum is, how it's so full of fluff that, kids are missing out on the basics. There's been talk lately of kids, struggling to get through, and graduate from year 12 and things like that because they just, they're struggling with the basic reading and writing and arithmetic sort of thing. And so here's another example. Each lesson is 45 to 115 minutes. So for all these units, which is like a 1 year thing, we've got 990 minutes to 2,530 minutes. So 16.5 to 42.1 hours of teaching time for 3 units of work.
Yeah. Which
I mean,
is
that's massive in a school environment. That is absolutely huge, you know. So yeah, it is problematic. And the thing too is that it's not culling the violence. It's actually getting worse. I mean, even at the end of 2024, even the ABC did a article saying that in Victorian primary schools,
so under 12
under
or under
12s,
13.
yeah, under 12, say 12s, there are 6 reported cases of child-on-child sexual assault every week.
Yeah.
Reported. Now, how many of those are going unreported? How many of those are being listened to? You know, having gone through trying to report a sexual assault of a minor and things like that, I know the police, you know, very, very hard to get them to listen to you and stuff. So, you know, what's happening, you know, that's just in Victoria. We know that there's been cases, you know, in the media about similar sorts of things happening with 6-year-olds in New South Wales. I know of cases here in WA where, you know, 11-year-olds and stuff, we've had, you know, different groups come through, do a couple of weeks on their wellness training, and then, you know, kids getting sexually assaulted sort of afterwards while at school in primary schools because of it, you know. So, you know, what are we doing? It's been so many years of doing this. The violence is getting worse. Kids are becoming more sexualized. They're more addicted to porn. There's more kids completely, you know, they talk about consent and boundaries and stuff like that. Kids are ignoring all of that. So why are they still pushing it?
Yeah. Yeah, there's also a part in this document, if memory serves, where they actually state outright that humans are sexual from birth.
Yeah, lots of there's
like it actually says in building respectful relationships. I've got it tagged on my version. This is your copy of the document that we put together, but it actually says outright humans are sexual from birth, meaning giving and receiving sexual pleasure.
Yeah.
And the flip side of that is there's some hardcore there are, if you go in other places in this flavor in the queer Marxism, there are people where they actually start presenting not allowing children to represent their own sexuality becomes oppressive, like you're oppressing kids by not allowing. There's a Kate Millett quote from an interview that she did in 1980 where she says that age of consent laws are oppressive not just to boys or gay boys who want to have sex with, you know, older and younger men. They're also oppressive to girls who may want to have sex with younger girls and older women as well. So something as innocuous as, you know, humans are sexual from birth in this educational document may seem really, you know, like a throwaway quip. But when you understand the mentality and the ideology of what this belongs to, that is like it's a stepping stone from there to you are being oppressive and you are violating children's human rights by not allowing them to have text conversations, including sexualized photos of themselves and other people with who knows, adults, children, like you're actually oppressing them by stopping that. And
I mean,
a violation of their human rights under this mindset.
Yeah. And I mean, we know that, you know, when Safe Schools was created, it was Gary Dowsett who was in charge of the department at La Trobe University. And I mean, you know, Gary Dowsett's quite famous for his Boiled Lollies and Bandaids article where he talks about, you know, the relationship between a pedophile and their young charge is the same as what it is for a parent and their child, you know, and you kind of go, no, I'm sorry. That is so wrong. So when you've got that in the background too, you kind of go, this stuff it's there, you know. I mean, nothing is set up for having parental rights, parental concerns. I mean, even things like Victoria, you know, has got this Doctors in Schools program, which, you know, has something like 138 schools in Victoria, and you can look it up, you know, Google Doctors in Schools Victoria. something like 100, last time I looked, it was 138 schools who've got GPs, very helpful for, the busy parents who can't get their kids to a GP. And it sounds great to start with until you look into it. And it states that if you're a parent and you don't give consent for your child to attend a doctor during school time, for whatever reason, if the school decides that your child is a mature minor, and that's like the principal, the school counselor, the teacher, or whatever, then they will actually hide the fact that your child is going to see a GP during school time from the parent. It's actually stated on their website.
That's
You know,
outrageous.
yeah. So, I mean, even like our Medicare privacy laws, from the time your child is 14, you can't access anything to do with billing. You can't access their immunization records. So if trying to get them into a new school and stuff, you've got to download it. You've got to have your child sitting next to you, allowing a Medicare person to talk to you so that you can get the details that you need. They seem to make the assumption that good parents are somehow all abusive and stuff like that. I mean, it's like the whole world, the whole population of children have got revolting abusive parents. And so they're making it harder instead of just, allowances. Well, okay, this child's in foster care because, he or she had very abusive parents for whatever reason, and so we have to block access, to their account for these people. No, it's just everyone, blanket ban on everyone. And, it's kind of ridiculous, really. So, and again, it's part of the socialist push. They want kids to be making
raised by the state
decisions and making mistakes and getting harmed. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Like the whole thing is that the state knows better than parents do. And I mean, when you go and look at the actual research that is solid and not, how do you feel about this? Or self-report surveys that, when you go to the actual proper, developmental official government statistics and things like that, it is the parents that the kids are most safe with.
Yes.
Like the most dangerous position any child can be in is statistically still a house that doesn't have their biological mother and their biological father present. Everything else is more dangerous.
And we know too from sitting through conference, with respectful relationship, that they do encourage what they call circles of trust. Circles of trust that specifically exclude parents. So, they encourage your child to go to the teacher, go to the school counselor, go to the principal, whatever, but exclude the parents. So when something happens, instead of going to the first person, the people that are more inclined to protect them than anyone or help them than anybody else, no, just go to school, just go to the people there. They know nothing about you, they clock off after hours and that's it. And, they'll do everything and look after you, for you. It's just ridiculous.
The parents are the people that know the kids most intimately, like in terms of raising them from all of the princess fairies or the dinosaur phases or the train phases, toilet training, the cuts, the bruises, the illnesses, the first football games or the first netball goals. The parents are there for all of that. Which teenagers tend to forget about pretty easily.
Yes.
Like your parents know you so much better than you ever realize, and they have your best interest, overwhelmingly have your best interest at
Always.
heart. And you are safer with your parents than with anybody else. But the relationship between child and parent has been, by all of this socialist DEI, we want the state to raise your kids. It's part of this whataboutism where it's like, well, what about the neglectful parents that do abuse, even though that they are the minority? That has basically been flipped and it's eroded. So now all parents are under suspicion no matter what. I remember having an argument with a social worker when I was in my early 20s about that, because a friend, they named their daughter, they had a like 8 or 9 or 10-year-old daughter who was called Blaze. And she lived up to her name. So she jumped off the top of these. She was like this awesome kick-ass little girl that was, basically going to run the world at some point in the future, that jumped off the top of the swing set or something like that. and broke her arm. And you could tell from her parents, looking at her parents, they were awesome, cool, laid
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
You know, they took her to the hospital and they basically got grilled about,
Yeah.
you know, whether they had abused this kid. Kids break their arms all the time.
They
It's,
do.
you know,
Yeah.
it's not the biggest deal in the world. You reset the arm, you learn not to jump off the
Yeah.
top of the swings the hard way, and you move
Yeah.
on with your life. But I remember saying, you know, like if in my early 20s to a woke, a then woke social worker who was a friend of my flatmates, if it's gotten to the point where all parents are under suspicion, then that's too far.
It's way too far.
That's not right either.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is definitely part of the mind, that worldview where
Yeah.
they basically state outright. It's like Brave New World.
Yeah.
Sophie Lewis and people like that carry on about they brag about and are excited about a future where procreation happens only in, you know, sterile hospital wards and babies are grown in, say, like I've heard
Okay.
Sophie Lewis say this
Oh,
in
wow.
at least one speech where she's like, I'm looking forward to a future where human children are grown in bags in labs. Like
But that's
what
just
we want.
transhumanism.
Yeah.
That's gross. But see,
And
it
then
kind of,
there are no biological parents, so those children
yeah.
automatically belong to the state. There's
Yeah.
no affiliation back to the
Yeah.
parent whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, I know, you know, most parents who have got, you know, children that are the rapid onset gender dysphoria, you know, which I've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of parents, you know, in Australia with. I mean, you learn that very quickly. It's the most confrontational part of the whole thing to find out that you are automatically assumed to be abusive, transphobic, hateful, bigoted, you know, everything, and that your rights don't exist, you know,
Yeah.
that they've just gone. And yet, you know, we hear like just 2 weeks ago or so, maybe 3 weeks, you know, another oh, I can't remember which state now, but anyway, oh, we're wanting parents to sign documentation to, you know, encourage kids to behave better in schools, you know, and you go, why are the parents?
Yeah, you've
Okay, so
taken
you've spent all
the
this time,
yeah,
taking away parents' right. We're not allowed to punish them. We're not allowed to ground them. We're not allowed to take away devices. We're not allowed to smack them. We're not allowed to, and I'm not talking beatings, I'm talking a smack.
yeah,
You know, we're not allowed to do anything like that at all. And then all of a sudden, and teachers encourage the kids to report and dob on the parents. And yet all of a sudden, you know, oh, now they can't control the kids in the classrooms
yeah.
anymore.
You reap what you
And so
sow.
coming after the parents, like, I'm sorry. And again, there are some good teachers, but there's a hell of a lot that aren't.
Yeah, well, and I
So,
mean, even the good teachers, they're in a really toxically bad system where
yeah,
there is this new
yeah,
mindset that, you know, despite all of the evidence from
yeah,
all of human history, which
yeah,
proves pretty much beyond a shadow of doubt that human nature doesn't change, that we are
yeah,
what we are.
yeah,
We are labeling under this
yeah,
modern delusion that we're
yeah,
evolving to some sort
yeah,
of higher species. Like you've robbed parents of their ability to raise disciplined children,
yeah,
like not abusive, but I mean self-disciplined
yeah,
children who know that they aren't the center of the universe and know that they need to behave in the classroom
yeah,
and want to be, you know, like that is how you get well-adjusted, good citizens as adults.
yes,
They've taken all of the tools that were used to create
yeah,
generations and generations of good citizens, and then they're wondering why they've got little monsters running
that's
around in the
it.
classrooms that they can't
Yeah.
control.
Collective Shout, I think, did a survey on, or a bit of a study or something on teachers and the amount of sexual harassment and abuse that they're getting in classrooms and stuff. And it was
Yeah,
absolutely
from
revolting
kids.
from kids, from their pupils. But again, you kind of go, I mean, I'm absolutely sympathetic. Nobody should be having to put up with that. But at the
Yeah,
same time, you go, what are you teaching them? So again, this whole, you know, early comprehensive sexualization stuff that's happening in schools has failed.
yeah,
You know, I mean, kids are, you know, okay, we've got the bands now and stuff, but I mean, you know, I've heard recently of a 13-year-old who's got his own Pornhub account. You know, goodness knows how he managed that. But, you know, like, we need to get devices off kids. You know, parents need to be stopped, you know, from being considered abusive for not letting their kids have smartphones
yeah,
and things. I mean, you know, okay, you know, parents worry, and more so these days because of all the you know, the stuff that's happening. But, you know, dumb phones, you know, instead of the smartphones with all the internet access, you know, go back to doing some actual school stuff with books instead of, you know, I mean, this country, I can't even remember which one of the European, like Sweden or Switzerland or, you know, one of those places.
Nordic, yeah.
Finland, the Nordic places, they're actually stopping the bring your own device to school thing. Because, I mean, everything changed from there, you know. You know, kids are spending more and more time, too much time on online doing everything, and they're being entertained every minute by social, you know, like YouTube and stuff. I mean, you go to the you know, shopping center and you see babies in prams with iPad holders so that they can watch stuff while they're being led around into shopping centers. You kind of go, no, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, that needs to stop.
Yeah, because it's easier to keep the kid quiet with an iPhone than it is to teach them to just sit there and be quiet and look at the world around them and pay attention to other things.
And talk to them and teach them to count and look at signs and in the shops and letters and, you know, fruit and vegetables and all of that sort of stuff. But, you know, as you found out, this access to children for activism's sake isn't new. I was actually really shocked when Kevin bumped into, you know, one of the videos that he's going to share soon.
Yeah. Do you want to do that now?
Yeah, probably. I think it's a good time.
Back when I was in my early 20s, the Lesbian Avengers were the coolest activist lesbian group, and we didn't think of them. They were Marxist, as it turns out, and they were quite radical.
Yeah.
But like, you're in your 20s, so you kind of counterculture and you think all this stuff is cool.
Yeah.
And then I started delving into the history a bit recently and started rewatching some documentaries, and I bumped into this. I think this is about 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are Lesbian Avengers!
It's weird. It is weird.
What makes it weird?
Teach about lesbians. What's that? Teach what, kids?
Well, yeah, I mean, don't you think kids get taught about a lot of different things, right?
It's all right. Yeah, you can teach kids. They teach them about gays, too. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Where you going, all the way down?
Yeah, to Middle Village School, I think it's called.
That's good. That's good.
Bateman will go to huh?
What do you think of that?
Everybody to each their own.
Hey, boy.
More power to them. It's the city property, but
I'm passing out balloons to school children on the first day of school that say, yeah. I want them to come out today because I have really mixed feelings about this, especially as a teacher. I'm afraid that we're harassing the kids a little bit. But I came because what I've been reading in the papers and seeing about what School Board 24 is doing is not just not doing in some kind of passive way, but taking on an active campaign of hate and intolerance. And I just can't stand to see that in another school.
I'm demonstrating here because I think children should learn about love, not about hate.
I also think that the people who are against lesbians and gay men in the school curriculum have a larger agenda, which is racist. Is to get rid of the multicultural curriculum. And they're attacking us because we're easy to attack.
So, I mean, see, for me, I would have thought multicultural is culture, different countries, different, what different countries do and things like that.
So that was the first Lesbian Avengers action,
Yeah.
is what they called the demonstration. They called them action.
Yeah.
And the women so Maxine Wolf, Susan Sarah Schaefer, the women who headed up the Women's Auxiliary of the ACT UP campaign, which was also really, really radical and Marxist in their approach, they split off because ACT UP was from 86 onwards, and around 91, 92, the women started wanting to do their own actions about lesbian stuff. So they got together and they formed the Lesbian Avengers, and this was the first action they ever did as Lesbian Avengers. And they were protesting. There was this thing called the Rainbow Curriculum in 1992 in New York State, and it was basically under the auspices of multiculturalism, which to you and me would mean Indian, Pakistani,
different countries,
Chinese, different cultures, as in, like national cultures.
Yes.
And somehow they slipped in, they must have some kind of Roz Ward of their own, where these people that were already active in the school system at the organizational curriculum level slipped in this gay and lesbian part to the curriculum where it doesn't necessarily kind of fit that well, and they didn't ask parents. I think it came down to individual school boards. So there were different areas that I think there were only like 4 areas or something that didn't go with it. Everybody else seemed to have gone with it. And they protested, in 1992, saying that it was, homophobic and and racist for people at the time when homosexuality was not the norm. Like it wasn't, it wasn't. There were pockets of gay, everywhere. So there were places where it was accepted, but it wasn't openly widespread celebrated in the way it is today. They saw that as, if you're not with us, you're against us. So if you don't want your kids to learn about, your under 12-year-old kids to learn about different sexualities, then you're homophobic and racist and a bigot. Whatever your reason is, even if you're religious and disagree with that and think it's a lifestyle, and know that your kids will will learn that at some later point of their life, that doesn't matter. It's the oppressor-oppressed mindset of, and we see that now, like with the IDAHOBIT, the parents that protested IDAHOBIT Day because they don't want their 5 and 6-year-old children to be confronted with sexuality prematurely, which not that long ago was not an unreasonable proposition.
No.
I don't find that unreasonable at all.
No.
Children don't need to be taught about sexual, like your youth takes up 20 years of your life, and you have another 60 to 70 years of life after that. For the first 10 years of your life, you don't need to know about sex. I'm sorry.
No.
There's nothing good that comes out of that.
Basic biology, yes, but I mean, even then, not reproductive. And we know from lots of examples of having talked to parents and things like that their teenagers aren't being taught reproduction. I mean, some of the school books that I've seen and stuff, what's the purpose of sex? Feeling close to someone, making developing a relationship, pleasure, mutual pleasure, all this sort of stuff. But it doesn't even mention pregnancy.
Yeah, it does. It's primarily for reproduction.
Yeah, but they've missed all that. yeah, it was I was quite surprised actually when I sort of stumbled on that. And I don't think, I mean, the focus now is about pleasuring and stuff. I don't know, should I show? There's a thing Craig did about Craig Cole.
Is it going to be cool if we share it?
Yeah, it's got,
Cool.
well, yeah, you know, we've mentioned him and stuff. So hang on, let me see. So this is Craig Cole from his leaveourkidsalone.org page. Now, so he had parents contact him about this particular school who's done in New South Wales, who's doing very explicit sort of sexual content. It was done by the book was published by someone called Matilda Education, and I've experienced this with my son at a different school where the school are self-publishing books, and so you can't really find them online or anything like that because they're just a little self-published. They go through these private publishing things. But so they're talking, so year 10s, 14 and 15-year-olds, sexual consent. So instead of just, you know, talking about consent, they're talking about, and I mean, these kids, you know, legally, they're not supposed to be having sex until, you know, they're minors still, so not until after 16, but includes groping, digital penetration, caressing, oral and anal sex, penile vaginal sex. I mean, at least they mention that there. Most of them don't. Masturbation, mutual masturbation, including sharing sexual images with another person, sexting, sending nudes, images, cybersex, etc. Sex is an activity that requires those participating to put themselves in a vulnerable position. You're often naked, physically close to someone, sharing intimate details about yourself. It can be intimidating for sure, but like all of these things. I mean, first of all, sending sexual images is like via text and stuff is illegal. You know, why are they talking about it? I mean, I know one of the curriculum documents that I saw talked about safe sexting. So you can send a nude of yourself, but like cut out your head or make sure there's nothing in the background that I can identify you in case the person, you know, shares it on the greater network and stuff like that. You know, consenting to sex acts. As much as we learn how to ask and obtain meaningful consent, we also need to learn how to give, refuse, or withdraw consent. So it talks about all this stuff. Again, oral sex, masturbation, anal sex, deep kissing, hand jobs, penetrating with fingers, and so many more things. Different toys and tools that you can use. Now, these are 14 and 15-year-olds. Age of consent refers to the age when someone can do it. In most cases, you can't do it until you've reached a certain age. It's about 16 to 17. There we go. Because it varies in each state. But I mean, this is stuff that.
Whoa.
What's
brains
that?
like example.
Yeah, brain. I think I was going to say examples.
Name as
yeah,
many
sex.
What?
That's a really, really common thing. Actually, that's a really common one. Yeah. Brainstorming class. So you might get the shy kid who's, you know, not up to that sort of stuff at all, asking to brainstorm in class, talking about this with all these other students. Like, yeah, yeah.
That's I'm scandalized and shocked by that. Like I didn't.
Yeah.
Even with all I've seen, I'm shocked by that.
Yeah, no, this was in one of my son's book too. Requires 15 and 6-year-olds to name as many sex acts as they can. Sex acts which, you know, possibly haven't entered in their vocabulary. But the thing is too, I think it plants a seed.
Yeah,
so
it does.
If you're in a class situation, like what the hell does that mean? Like, okay, I'm going to go home and Google.
You're brainstorming with all of these people in your class who you may or may not be friends with.
Yeah.
And then on Friday night, you're hanging out and, you know, kids hang out in bushlands and stuff like that, or they have parties, or they go downstairs. You know, they hang out at their friends' houses and their parents are home, but they're downstairs and the parents are upstairs. And there's some guy who's, you know, going through puberty and a bit horny starts, you know, like that subject comes back up again and they start asking you directly like about sex acts that you were talking is like, that's totally plausible.
Yeah. So, and then links to scarletine. So scarletine is actually really revolting. I learnt about scarletine in early 2016. -18 used to have links to scarletine. And it's pure filth. It used to have I haven't looked at it for a little while, but it did used to have places where you could go and buy small size condoms for, implying for underage people having sex and stuff. Different sex clubs and stuff, various porn sites, how to turn common household objects into sex toys like electric toothbrushes, razors that you take the head off the electric razors, and like all this sort of stuff. Packers, all about packers, and so packers are little sort of knitted penises sort of thing that you can put down, how to tuck, how to bind, how to all of these sort of stuff. But and then there's all this. This is what sort of bugs me. So Scarletine has like these message boards and things like that where they can talk and stuff. So we've got the under 16 social media ban, so they can't look at certain things and stuff. But then there's things like this one. This is not banned. Reconfused about masturbation and why, and it doesn't feel good. So it's got all of this stuff all about it. So you can just go on a whole rabbit hole of who knows what. Now you could have pedophiles in this. Nobody's checking for age verification. Nobody's, it's not supervised chat things or anything like that.
And if you were someone who was, like a nasty pervert who is into this sort of stuff, then they make it their business to know about these sorts of places.
So, look at here.
So, of course they're there.
So this is being moderated by somebody called Jacob, a Scarletine staff volunteer. When he joined, he's age 35. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And it's not like, I'm a 35 youth worker who's into working with kids.
He's a volunteer.
This is sexualized youth.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's all of this stuff it's just the level of inappropriateness is just incredible,
it's off the charts.
Yeah, it is. And people think that we're sort of, ones that are exaggerating about this, but all of this stuff plants seeds and then kids go looking and I looked, the other day just to see post, the underage 16 ban to see if kids could get in after hearing from a parent, that their child has got an account. How can they get an account? So I looked. And not being a regular, porn user myself, whatever. You can still see like it's like a screen with little images of things that you can see, but if you click on them, then it doesn't work. It blurs out and you've got to prove your age and stuff. But there's still all this stuff that you can see. It doesn't block out, a whole heap of stuff sort of thing. So kids go looking for this and finding this stuff out. And it's things, and this is how we lead to, thinking 12-year-olds thinking it's okay to send, multiple dick pics to girls in their class and, all of this sort of stuff. It's terrible. It's just completely inappropriate, and then we know that, a lot of the percentage, even some of the activists that you get on Twitter and stuff sort of say, oh, you people are so mean to trans people. Don't you know that, half of them transition because of sexual abuse? Well, yes, I do know some have transitioned because of sexual abuse. Why do you think sexual abuse is happening and so prevalent now? Like, is it just because it's reported on? Like, I don't personally think it is. I think it's because of all the stuff that's happening in schools.
Yeah.
And the internet, obviously. Yeah.
Common sense.
Yeah.
More which is why days like IDAHOBIT Day, which seem to people who are liberal, live and let live type people, who maybe aren't particularly engaged that deeply in their kids, especially when they start getting into teenage years, they aren't deeply connected to what's happening in their kids' school, or that, like me, they don't have kids and aren't connected to children at all. You just don't know this stuff's happening. You kind of look at it, and like I remember looking at, like trans kids or kids that were transitioning, and because I was not engaged with what being 13, 14, 15 years old meant realistically on any level, I had, like you just assume, oh, well, they're, that they're not adults, but somehow you kind of just assume that they know what they're doing, or that the people around them know what you just kind of have this assumption where it's like, oh, whatever, good for them. I'm not, not getting involved in that. But And so people that are like, oh, IDAHOBIT Day is, like it's just about pizzas and soft drink and, like encouraging kids to be who they are and who cares
Yeah.
if they haven't kissed each other or, and they haven't kissed
Yeah.
anyone and they're coming out as gay or lesbian. That then leads to other stuff. The only thing about being in the LGBT is sex. That's what we have in common. So
Yeah.
the entire culture
Mm.
revolves around a whole heap of really hedonistic, not fit for children on any level
Yeah.
subject matter that, yeah, they can say that they're gay or lesbian and that's socially accepted. But then what they're doing
Yeah.
in their spare time is they're getting deeper and deeper and deeper involved in this stuff
Yeah.
that they should not be seeing on any level whatsoever. It's just not appropriate.
And the sad thing is too that, I mean, gay and lesbian is almost not a thing with school age kids anymore. It's just not. You're either trans or bi or aromatic or
Yeah, I don't even
one
know
of
what is that?
that you can see past anyone's gender and you just like anyone. Yeah. So, kids who don't know what they're talking about with any of it, ask them for their label and their pronouns. I'll often say they, them because everyone else is, and they'll say non-binary because that way it's not putting an actual label. Well, they think it's not putting on an actual label. And people sort of go, oh, they've come out, at least it's just non-binary and stuff. But then you start looking into what non-binary is. Places like America, there's a whole thing of doing nullification surgery on non-binary people where they remove their breasts, they remove their penises, they remove all external female genitalia, belly buttons and everything, so that they become these creatures, completely
Yeah, they
sexless
become
aliens with
Barbie and
Ken with, two holes, one to, pee out of and one to poop out of. It's not a good thing.
No.
None of this is a good thing. I mean, we need to go back to, I mean, I remember, okay, I'm showing my age, Dolly magazine in the late 80s, love the skin you're in. That was great. It was teaching people to accept themselves for actually who they are, not somebody who's been chopped up, chemically castrated, all of this stuff. Learn to be happy with how you're made, like the fact that they're focusing so much away from actual biology and stuff is why I think that so many kids get caught up in this, because we know, I mean, people like you who transitioned knew you weren't changing sex. Kids today transition because they think they can. And for me personally, I think that's what a revolting thing to do. It's a goal. It's setting a goal, like the little dangle the golden carrot. Here it is,
It's
here
not
it is.
possible.
One more medication, one more little surgery, one more this, and then you'll be what you want to be, the opposite sex. It's not going to happen. Like it's really horrible. And so we need to go back to teaching kids about biology, actual reproduction, how when, the joining like in utero sort of thing. It's not, sex observed at birth, not
Yeah, that
assigned
drives
at
me
birth.
bananas.
I know. I mean, it's only observed, like, I mean, I spoke to a young teen not that long ago who had no idea that, every cell in your body shows that you're a male or female, or that, if the doctors weren't quite sure about what, the genitalia were, they could get that exact same information by doing a blood test. But obviously they're not going to want to do a blood test on a baby. So looking at a baby's genitalia is the quick and easy way of figuring it out. But so it goes, what is our school system doing? They're not teaching our kids this. So yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so days like IDAHOBIT Day really actually matter.
Yeah. And well, they do matter, and wear it purple and all that. It's funny, I did a
Does
little
Wear It Purple still exist?
Yes, very, very much.
I kind of assumed that Wear It Purple was what led to IDAHOBIT Day.
No, it's definitely still there. And even workplaces and stuff often do wear it purple. I actually did a little thing on Grok to find out how many days they get. So this is from like
Yeah,
I did a
Pride
search.
start tomorrow.
Pride starting tomorrow, and like I'm already done with it.
Yeah.
So this is for Australia and New Zealand. So January is International Day apparently to end conversion therapy on January the 7th. Now, I mean, even that you kind of go, oh, great, conversion therapy, that should never happen. Conversion therapy isn't what people say it is,
No.
like some sort of electric shock therapy for gay people and stuff. modern day conversion therapy now with the like laws in Australia and stuff is to stop medical, like decent medical practitioners and parents for getting help from their kids. You know, it's banning talk therapy. It's banning slowing down and, you know, this has happened to my child, or, you know, we've got a family history of schizophrenia or any of the other things. And, you know, I don't think that this child should have hormones. And
Well,
that's,
I mean, the other thing is that they can't. I keep bumping into detransitioners who end up having personality disorders.
yes,
They can't. Apparently, they
yeah,
can't diagnose personality disorders until you're in your 20s at
yeah,
minimum,
yeah.
because it
And
takes a while
yeah,
for the personality to settle.
yeah,
So you've got a whole heap of people that
yeah,
have
yeah.
personality, like uh,
Borderline personality disorder.
borderline personality disorder is apparent. I think it's the most common. I bumped
Yeah,
into more
yeah,
borderline personality
yeah,
disorder people than anybody else.
yeah,
So you have people that are developing in their late teens and early 20s
yeah,
that have this disorder, that they have a
yeah,
personality disorder that
yeah,
hasn't been diagnosed yet.
yeah,
They have an unstable personality to start with. They don't know who they are. They can't
yeah,
grasp who, like
yeah,
they have an unstable internal sense of themselves
yes,
that grab hold of transition, and
yeah,
then, you know, when they're 25, 26,
yeah,
whatever, they get diagnosed with being borderline,
yeah,
which would explain their transition or
yeah,
their desire to
yeah,
transition in and
yeah,
of of itself
yeah.
in the first place. Like,
So
it's
we've
just a disaster.
so February and March, Pride season starts in February to March, according to Grok. So we've got the
Well,
Sydney
that's
Gay and
Mardi
Lesbian,
Gras.
yeah, Mardi Gras. Auckland Pride Festival is often in February. Other regional festival Pride festivals, Wellington Pride, Christchurch Pride, blah blah blah. It all varies between summer and autumn. March is Transgender Day of Visibility. That's the 31st of March. April is International Asexuality Day. Lesbian Day, Visibility Day, Lesbian Visibility Week, April 26th or a week around it. And I mean, we know these days, you know, lesbians, anyone who feels like they're a lesbian. Um, May is the IDAHOBIT Day, which we've just talked about. And then May 24th is apparently Pansexual and Panromantic Visibility Day. Don't even know what that one is. June
Oh,
is
I don't know.
Yep. June is Pride Month.
Yeah.
July is International Non-Binary People Day on the 14th of July and Non-Binary Awareness Week in mid-July. August is Wear It Purple Day. September, Celebrate Bisexuality Visibility Day is September the 23rd, and Bisexual Awareness Week. We haven't even got to October yet. LGBT History Month for October. International Lesbian Day. Again, anyone in Australia can be a lesbian if they think they are, including men. That's on October the 8th. National Coming Out Day. Asexual Awareness Week. I'm sure we've already said asexual, but anyway. Intersex Awareness Day, which that's on October the 26th. And I don't even think intersex should be counted as part of the rainbow, because the few genuine intersex people I've met don't want to be a part of the rainbow. You know, I mean, that's a sexual development disorder, you know, like that's like being born with, you know, an actual disability and having to do whatever they need to do. That doesn't mean that they're trans or anything. It just
Yeah.
means that they've got issues, you know. And then we've got November Trans Awareness Week. Transgender Day of Remembrance is on the 20th. And then we've got December 20, World AIDS Day. Now you compare all of those to like Anzac Day or a Mother's Day or a Father's Day or anything, a day, you know, like,
Parents get 2 days a year, like
yeah,
Mother's Day and Father's Day,
yeah, yeah.
and maybe their
Anzacs,
birthday if they're lucky.
yeah, Anzacs who've, you know, fought and died, they get one day. I mean, there's Remembrance Day, so
That's
sort of two, but
two.
not really. I mean,
It's
come on.
ridiculous. It is utterly ridiculous.
It's just complete. And so if schools, like as we've seen, you know, they're celebrating IDAHOBIT Day. So if schools are celebrating all of these days, how
Mm.
much more of the curriculum is being taken away from
Yeah.
real subjects to this?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the other thing is that the building respectful relationships was between 1,000 and 2,500 hours, minutes of class time
Yeah,
being taken up.
yeah.
That's just not, that's every year.
And
And
that
that's
was only
one
three
program.
units. 3 units.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the respect, resilience, rights, and respect
Yep.
for relationships. There are 6 booklets that cover. Each booklet covers 2 years,
Yep.
and gets thousands and thousands of class minutes eaten up with
Yep.
just that
Yep.
program. And I'm
Yep.
assuming there are other
Look, there's
programs that go along with that.
I mean, there's
So
things like Elephant Ed, there's coming out early, coming out later. Coming out early is especially for very young kids. There's Elephant Ed, there's Shine South Australia, who some of their stuff is just absolutely hideous. There's, you know, the -18 stuff. There's a lot of the Headspace stuff. Headspace is not a mental health drop-in centre. It's a
yeah,
it's a
given the reality that so much class time is being taken up
yeah,
with this, you know, wellness indoctrination, is it
yeah,
really any surprise at all
no,
that you have kids graduating from high school or graduating from university? Because I had one of those conversations recently where not only are they completely ill prepared to deal with the
yeah,
world as it currently exists,
yeah,
they can't read, they can't write,
no,
they think they think that their feelings are the center of the universe.
yeah, yeah.
It's just bad all around.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's too much internalizing of everything and their feelings and stuff. And I mean, you know, okay, we want people to have good mental health.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that, but I mean,
But
this
that
is more
isn't
than
that is
that.
yeah, that is good mental health is not always achieved by inward focusing.
No,
It's
yeah,
probably better mental health is probably more focusing on what you can do to help others than it is
yes,
what others can help to do
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Because you know, like when you're doing good things for others,
yeah,
you reap the benefits of that as well.
that's right. Yeah. But there's, and I mean, and then there's pride in that, like real pride in helping others
Mm.
and, you know, helping others to get ahead and things like that, not this hedonistic
Yeah.
pride, you know?
Everything is me.
Yeah, yeah,
But we should probably end it there
I
because
think so.
I think
Yeah,
we're just going to start repeating
yep.
ourselves more and
No,
more.
I think that's good.
But thank you so much for stopping by.
That's all right. Thank you for having me. And yeah, we'll talk again sometime soon, hopefully.